What's up everybody, D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing my review for Skull Island Season 1, Episode 3, What's Up, Croc? As always, light spoilers, we're going to be moving through the episode, not going beat for beat, but just touching upon my notes that I took when I watched it for the second time. Well guys, I think we are at an impasse here. I think this is going to be the point where you're either going to get on board with this show or it's going to lose you, because I even felt like this episode was a little strange, which makes me think that if I'm saying that and I liked the first two, people might fall off with this episode. I've only posted 2 reviews so far. I am doing these in the moment. I'm trying my best to keep up on these, and I'm trying not to look at the online reaction to the show yet, just because first of all I don't want it to sway my opinion, and also I don't want spoilers. I'm still watching the show. I've only seen 3 episodes, but I will say I have not seen anything nice. I've seen no positive comments on my videos. I have not really checked, to be fair, so there might be some, but it seems like people are disappointed. The one comment that stuck out to me was someone saying, "I just finished the show and I'm here to say that the way you feel about Godzilla Awakening is how I feel about this show." I don't know what could possibly happen in the next couple episodes to make somebody say that. I really dislike Godzilla Awakening as part of the MonsterVerse canon. I think it's a fine story on its own, but to hear that makes me nervous for what comes up next. That's also the reason that I don't really read stuff, because I don't want to feel nervous. I want to go into it excited. But I would say this episode I'm starting to feel a bit of a tug of war going on with this show. I feel like I'm having something different than the fan base is probably having. I don't know what to think of this episode. This episode is simultaneously not terribly eventful, and at the same time I find it to be way too fast paced. I felt like certain beats happened way too quickly in this episode to have any sense of tension or danger or any mood or atmosphere or anything. They just kind of occurred, but at the same time I know that if you were to slow this show down, you'd lose way more viewers because people don't want to sit and watch it slowed down. I know that, I know. So that's kind of the conflict I had with this episode, was I felt like it wasn't eventful enough like the other 2 episodes have been, but I also felt like the things that happened in this episode tended to happen a little too quickly. That being said, let's get into it, because I still enjoyed this episode a pretty decent amount. I thought it had a great hook. Again, that's what this show does best. It has great hooks at the start of the episodes. This was probably my favorite hook at the start of the episode. I really like the Dragonfly Easter egg to the Kong Skull Island 2017 movie. I like that the monster conflict that happens is enough to break up the human drama that's occurring, but I do like that the humans are still fighting each other even when running away from the monsters. So as we learn here, Annie is from another island, not Skull Island, where her dog apparently killed 7 men. So I guess he is a murderer of men. I really didn't think he'd kill people in this show, but hey, he didn't kill them on screen, so my theory still stands that in order to make him likable, he might not kill anybody on screen. I loved the little gag where the guy's standing in the water and he's like, don't come in, and they're like, but there's a monster over here, we don't want to get eaten, and he goes, I don't want to get eaten, and then he gets eaten. Thought that was a great bit. He also got the worst death in the show so far. Guy got snatched into pieces by that crocodile. I saw limbs flying everywhere and blood going everywhere. Again, I like that this show is playing a bit more for a teenage to young adult viewer base. I appreciate that it's not skewing towards children's shows, which is something Netflix specializes in, taking an adult franchise and turning it into a kid's cartoon. It's a weird thing they do. So I like that they're not doing that here. I like the whole don't move when the crocodile is coming up. It's a good Jurassic Park reference, and I like how it just doesn't work, because that's not how science works. But this crocodile guy, again, I'm just not sold on him standing on 2 legs. I thought he was fantastic when he was running around on all 4s, but when he stands on 2 legs, he is distractingly like the Ben 10 Season 4 villain / turned hero crocodile guy. He's too similar. It's weird. The chase is very exciting. It's lots of fun. I was a big fan of this sequence. I thought the whole thing moved and flowed really well. I also like that we've got a river. Skull Island should have lots of rivers. Good to see that terrain being brought back in from the 2017 movie. Overall, I thought Skull Island in this episode was presented pretty well in line with that 2017 movie. I'm glad that there was a story reason for why the crocodile didn't jump in the water, because I was very curious about that. It could definitely swim way faster than they can. It could have grabbed them much sooner. And I love the way that they fall off the waterfall and then celebrate, thinking that they've survived and that they've gotten away, only to in the background see the crocodile dive off the cliff. I thought that was a great visual gag, and it was one of the funniest parts of the episode. This crocodile also reminds me a little bit of the crocodiles from the 2005 film, although I think he's a little cooler than they ever were. But they met the same fate anyways. eyes, just to a different mouth. Kong's reveal is awesome here. I loved the music, I thought it was really great, and I loved the reveal of him. I thought it was a really cool way to reveal him, although I would say I'm not sure why they refer to him again as a 100-foot tall monkey. If we're gonna be consistent with the MonsterVerse, he should be at least 200 plus by now. I get that the kid is just guesstimating, but guesstimate 200 foot. Just say 200 foot, and then we'll be like, because time has passed. Again, as I mentioned in my trailer breakdown, it's nice to see that Kong's always munching. That guy is always so hungry. He eats all the time. He's eating all the time, so I like that he's snacking here. And they also call him a big monkey once again, which completes the tradition of always calling him a monkey in all of the movies. I like the mustache guy. I think he's a fun character, but some of his dialogue is a little too on the nose for me and was distracting at times. The more I hear about this group, the more I think that they could be hired by Apex. I don't really think that's where this show is leading. I think they're just going to be from some random government organization, but if they wanted to tie things together to the broader version of the MonsterVerse that we're aware of, having him be from Apex would be quite interesting. Now, a big plot twist would be if they're from Monarch and they're the bad guys of this show. That'd be a huge plot twist reveal that I would be kind of into. But for now, I'm going to say they're from a brand new group that's kind of Apex adjacent. Not in canon, but like they've got similar motives, right? Irene believes that gun bit a little bit too fast. That was one of the jokes in this episode that didn't really land as well for me. I mean, Cap has a great reason for just agreeing with her. It's a very natural reason, and I like that it's addressed in this show, but I didn't like that they had to do that weird little gun bit in the first place. Also, they mention a fountain. I don't know what they're referring to. Is it supposed to be like the Fountain of Youth? Is that what they're looking for in this show? Is that maybe what's going to be inside that temple that we've seen in the trailers? I have no idea. It's interesting that Skull Island is not the only island like this. I wonder what protects the other ones. Are they also surrounded by storms? Are they in the same storm hub? I'm not sure. They also say it's a 100-mile radius, which feels huge to me. Maybe that's not as big as I'm thinking it is, but that feels like a huge radius. I wouldn't think that Skull Island and its inhabiting area would be a 100-mile radius. It seems a little bit too big. Like somebody else would have found it by now. The sea monster joke where they're like, sea monster, that one really works for me. That's one of the funniest bits they do in this show. And I also thought that teenage girl joke was really funny. I loved Irene's reaction to it. And I also get why Cap would be willing to go with them. He's totally willing to help them because they're humans, you know, he gets it. They're humans, they can rationalize with him, and he also believes Dog is a super violent monster who just killed a man. So he probably would want to go with them. But I have a feeling when it comes down to it in a couple episodes, I don't think he's going to side with the humans. I think his kid is going to be like, oh my God, Dad, you're with the bad guys. And he'll be like, no, it's a big misunderstanding. And then I think he's going to side with his kid. That's how I think it'll go. The boys getting into an argument by the river, it was a little strange for me because they didn't get into that argument earlier when Mike revealed that he knew about Skull Island and he was being blamed for things he just couldn't have known about, like the mercenaries. But I did like the argument they were having itself. I didn't like the context of it, but I liked the dialogue being spoken. I liked the arguments each one presented. I thought it was a well-written argument that just came at the wrong moment. And I thought it was a good explanation when they say Skull Island doesn't show up on radar because of the magnetism. I thought that was a good explanation for it. I don't know if that's how radar works, but I thought it was a good explanation regardless. I like knowing that it doesn't show up on radar, and even his explanation of the electromagnetic frequencies was still iffy enough to be like, oh, it could be any other reason as well. So I'm confused a little bit about what the reasons they came here is. Is it because Mike and the gang wanted one last adventure with Charlie, or is it because Mike and Hero were looking for a woman? Maybe the woman thing is a big secret that he still has yet to reveal. That could be the case. Maybe that woman was looking for this fountain of some kind. I'm not sure. But it was interesting that he gave a different reason in this episode than he did in the last episode. I like the little fourth wall break where they ask if they're boring or not. It felt very fun because I'm sure it was poking fun of the fact that they were expecting critics to critique the fact that we're spending time with the human drama rather than the monsters. I love the hills and the mountains on this Skull Island. I think it does a really good job representing the Skull Island from the 2017 movie. However, the red grass field still does feel a little bit out of place for me. We never saw anything quite like that in that movie. We did see other biomes. We even saw some red grass patchy areas in Kong Skull Island. We just didn't see anything to this extent. However, it was worth it because I really enjoyed the giant red field cat. He's great. So perfectly taken from the mythos of Kong Skull Island, this perfect blend between flora and fauna that has this natural camouflage with its environment. It was so perfect from that movie, but it was just amplified a bit further and made a bit sillier for this animated style. I thought it really worked. The Phoenix attack, on the other hand, did not work for me. It just felt out of nowhere. It felt rushed. They could have really built tension with that and had a really exciting sequence had they slowed that sequence down by like a minute or two and had had a great minute of suspense at the start where they started to realize what was going on, because as it stands, that sequence just kind of comes and goes in the span of like 1 minute entirely. I also noticed shortly after this sequence, Irene has the greatest vocal performance in the show. That voice actress does a great job. I forget her name, but I have seen her in live action movies as well, and she's a great actress, so I do think she delivers a great vocal performance in this show. That little interview scene was really cute. I enjoyed it quite a lot. I loved the sunset aesthetic, and I thought it was a very sweet bonding moment, but maybe I'm 17? That feels a little sus. I'm sure that's gonna be her canonical age when they find out how old she is, but like, she could be 23 right now, rizzing up a 17-year-old kid. I don't know. Feels weird to play around with that specific time period of ages. The chopper takedown also felt pretty rushed. I didn't feel like it had enough time or tension to build. It just kind of happened. That being said, I liked the way it happened. I thought the sound design was great. I thought the squid destroying the chopper was a fun reference to Kong Skull Island when he blew up all the helicopters. I just felt that moment again was a little too rushed for me. I found it interesting as well that these guys are collecting samples of all sorts of materials rather than like storing eggs in their chug jugs. I don't quite know what else they're doing in there, but yeah, they're just throwing whatever they can in there. But yeah, certified chug jug moment. Also, now that I think of it, is Dog the dog from the mug root beer mug? He could be. Okay, how are they going to get tranquilizers on the island? I didn't really understand Irene's plan at the end of this episode at all. It made zero sense to me. How do they plan to get tranquilizers to the island? How do they plan to attack the squid in the first place? How are they going to get them there with the squid blowing up a helicopter in front of them? Or are they going to fly it in on an airplane and drop it? I didn't totally understand that. If they can fly an airplane over, why can't you fly an airplane over and find a place to land it on the island? I don't know. It felt very awkward. That whole sequence felt awkward to me. I didn't understand her plan. It made zero sense to me, but I appreciated that even Cap realized that plan made zero sense. She's kind of got a bit of a Packard thing going on where it's almost like, you know, how Packard turned Kong into this symbol for the war. It's almost like Irene has turned Annie into this symbol for whatever she's after, and so she's kind of blinded by that. So she might undergo a similar character arc. Kong walking away at the end of the episode was great. I liked how huge he looked, and it also reminded me quite a lot of Godzilla Earth, also from Netflix's anime. And then lastly, I'll just say I was right about Mike. The poor guy is not doing well. The rash seems to be spreading. It has caused the eye bags like I thought it would. I don't know what it could be. It could be internal bleeding or poisoning or something, but I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. I think that Annie's going to know some sort of cure for it and that he'll be okay in the end, but he just straight up could die from it. I'm not sure. All right, that is my thoughts on this one, guys. Let me know what you guys thought down below. I'm very curious to hear what everybody thinks of this episode in particular, because again, this was the one where I felt a little shaky on it, so I'm curious to hear what other people think. I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. Thank you guys for your support. If you want to support the Patreon, you can using the link in the description below. It really goes a long way towards supporting the channel and making sure I can keep making videos like this for you guys. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time for the next one. D-Man, out.